Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And tonight's NXT, I gotta say, I had a lot of fun with this episode of NXT tonight. We got some great matches, some very interesting storyline developments, both in the tag and the women's division as far as I'm concerned. And we're getting some stuff materializing for the next TakeOver special on June the 8th. So, Ashton, what did you think of tonight's NXT?
It's nice to see storylines finally progressing after so many sort of weeks, if not months, of stagnation leading up to and then the fallout of Dallas, rather.
Right.
And I just am really kind of, the one thing that NXT does really, really, really well is get people excited for their live specials and then deliver on those, on those expectations. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to the takeover on June 8th.
I certainly agree with you. They definitely have a consistency as it relates to the quality of their TakeOver specials. That is certainly true. So with that said, let's get right into our first segment. Heat of the night. I've got 0 heats of the night and 0 nitpicks. Ashton, what about you?
Oh, you got to do this to me. I've got one of each.
Okay, we'll do the nitpick first and then your heat of the night. So what's your nitpick?
It's exclusively a nitpick because it's kind of selfish and it's got a lot more to do with just my personal preferences than, trying to be objective.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Just in the first women's match that we got tonight between Carmella and Peyton Royce.
Yeah, I was very curious to hear you talk about it because I know you've been waiting for either Billie Kay or Peyton Royce to emerge for quite some time. So what's the nitpick, that she didn't go over?
Well, yeah, but you know what? It's got something to do with that, but there's more to it than just that.
Okay, well then the floor is yours.
I don't think I would have minded if she wouldn't have gone over, if it would have looked like Carmella actually beat her, but this felt way too fluky in my opinion.
Interesting.
This match, if you watch this match from beginning to end, and you had no real experience watching wrestling or you weren't familiar with wrestling or anything, you would come away from it thinking, wow, that Peyton Royce sure is a really good wrestler. It sucks that she didn't get the win, though.
Do you feel like it was, because from what I recollect from the match, it seemed like Peyton Royce was on offense for most of it, but then Carmella almost got the equivalent.
3/4 of the match, and then Carmella had the Cena comeback.
So, I was going to say, do you feel like Carmella just kind of luck-boxed it, so to speak? Like, she just got this chain of offense, and yeah. I could see
the whole match, it felt like Peyton Royce was the better, I mean, typically you would say the better man, the better woman, whatever you want to say. It felt like she was the better wrestler, the better fighter, however you want to phrase it. And in wrestling psychology, the babyface is supposed to be the better fighter, and the heel is supposed to win by cheating. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I got a similar vibe. It's funny that you're saying what you're saying about Peyton Royce coming off as the better wrestler in this and that, because that's really the vibe I got watching this match. I mean, Peyton Royce pulled out some beautiful stuff in the match. I mean, my personal favorite was the 2 swinging hips verticals, and then the third thing being a beautiful fisherman suplex.
Oh my God.
I mean,
perfection.
Perfection.
Bridge on that. The bridge, John.
I know. Excellence. Pure excellence. So
I wonder if bridges become more and more impressive as one's legs get longer and longer, because, I don't know if Stacy Keibler ever tried to do a bridge, but Peyton Royce probably has some of the longest legs you'll ever see do a bridge, and it looked incredible.
Yeah, it did. I mean, to say it was on point, I think would actually be an understatement. But I'm definitely picking up what you're laying down with the nitpick. I really was rooting for Peyton Royce, and not just because, I know you're a big fan of her, but she really was, the better in-ring competitor to me. I wanted to see her get that win. But Enough on that. What's your heat of the night?
Well, I mean, just as far as, because we do like to try and find silver linings, I will say I've been harping on Peyton Royce, and specifically on whoever writes NXT, for trying to make Peyton Royce be a heel for the longest time. And for the first time, I actually bought her as a heel tonight.
Yeah, I can agree with you. I really loved her offense. Like, I think at one point she got like a knee in the face of Carmella, looked pretty nasty. So yeah,
honestly, I think that other than that amazing Northern Lights, my favorite spot in the match was when she used her long legs to her advantage again with the corner choke.
Yeah, that was great too. I agree.
She literally had Carmella off her feet. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was a great visual.
Yeah.
And, I got to give big ups to Carmella, too. Nitpick aside, I do think, especially now that they're back in Full Sail, she can really cultivate that babyface ground that she's starting to build for herself.
Yeah, man. I mean, the reason, this nitpick isn't so much about, Carmella sucks. She doesn't.
Right.
I think that she's, honestly, her and Alexa Bliss, I think, are both very underused, underutilized, underrated, most improved 2015 contenders. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I just feel like the fact that you've got Carmella, who went from like a 3 to like a 7, going up against Peyton Royce, who started as a 7 and now is maybe even an 8 as far as in-ring ability goes. And Carmella is the one that you're really pushing. Peyton Royce is the jobber. And you have the match play out the way it did, where Peyton was kind of on offense for the most part, and then Carmella had like this fluky comeback victory. I'm just not a fan of that structure.
Hopefully it translates into something down the road for Peyton Royce, because Lord knows she deserves it. But I'm very curious now about your heat of the night.
My heat of the night is that NXT is transforming into everything I hate about ROH.
Oh boy, here we go. Now, I only say that because I know, we've got people like wrestling fan, Lee Clark, who really do like NXT and stuff like that. But what is your issue? I want you to state your case right here. You say NXT is transforming into ROH.
Right.
Where's that coming from?
Because my biggest issue that I've had with ROH for the last multiple years, I don't even want to try and put a number on it. It's been a minimum of 3 years, probably upwards of 6 or 7. My biggest issue with ROH is that they're so obsessed with long-form storytelling that they miss out on opportunities to catch lightning in a bottle.
Okay.
And NXT used to be really good at catching lightning in a bottle, but they have foregone that potential in order to favor long-form storytelling, just like ROH.
Now, if you can give a concrete example to kind of frame this critique of
our
a
main
recent
event
time.
Tonight. Our main event tonight is exactly what this stems from. We had Nia Jax versus Bayley in a match that maybe didn't technically have to determine the number one contender for the women's championship, but it basically did. The winner of this match was going to go on to face Asuka. Now, the long-form storytelling side of NXT said, well, we need to stick with Bayley as champion so that, we can give her this long reign and she can be the queen of NXT and we can build up to her downfall. But if you wanted to catch lightning in a bottle, and what would have been, in my opinion, the far smarter way to go about it, since you're already building now to Nia Jax versus Asuka, would have been for Nia to beat Bayley in London like we both said should have happened.
Yeah.
And then build to Nia Asuka, where Asuka is the one doing the chasing rather than the other way around.
Right. It's funny, Ashton, because I know on TWitWoW you and I both have kind of, implemented the KISS method at times. And, of course, for those that don't know, the uninitiated, that's keep it simple, stupid. And very simplistic wrestling storytelling that works, I'd say 90 to 100% of the time, very high success rate, is you have, your face versus heel dynamic. Now, Nia, I feel like, is that great archetype of, like, the monster heel,
right?
And Asuka is this badass babyface. Could have been a great story. I found it weird from the word go. And see, here's the thing, too, and I don't know if you've read similar reports. I want to get your thoughts on this. But I hear that WWE is kind of retaining Bayley at the moment in NXT because they don't have a top babyface to replace her. And I'm thinking, well, I think Asuka's best groomed for that spot, but you really could have catapulted her in that spot with a great feud with a heel women's champion in Nia Jax.
Exactly. And I think that, and I even said this literally 6 months before it even happened, that putting Asuka against Bayley doesn't help anyone. Sure, you'll get a good match out of it. No one's going to deny that. And we did. We had a good match between Asuka and Bayley. But it doesn't actually help either one of them because fans don't want to see either one of them lose. And the fact that Bayley had to be the one to lose that match, it made fans feel bad for her, which is good for her, but then it made fans also resent Asuka, which is not good for her or the NXT Women's Championship.
I feel like taking everything in now that all of this has transpired, when you look at Bayley versus Asuka from TakeOver Dallas, that was a moment, in my opinion, of nearsightedness by NXT, if you will, because I think they opted for tunnel vision. Yeah, they opted for
the big picture.
Yeah, they opted for a great wrestling match over, telling a more comprehensive story, that story being, having Nia Jax in the Bayley spot and keeping Asuka in her spot, especially because, I told you, I got behind Asuka because of her whole Instagram post of how I want to really revolutionize women's wrestling, and I got to win this match. It's
now imagine if she would have put out that Instagram post while Nia Jax held the title. How much more impact that would have had? Because really, you're saying you want to revolutionize women's wrestling. You're in a match with somebody that can lay claim to having already done that.
Exactly. And that was the point I was really getting at, Ashton. It would mean so much more and be more emotionally resonant if you had an obstacle like Nia Jax as champion. Well, the past is prologue. It's over with. It's whatever. We're here now. And I can certainly get where you're coming from, because to me, with how this match, Nia Jax versus Bayley, was handled tonight, let me ask you. You have this critique. NXT is doing this long-form storytelling. Does that mean that me and everybody else, watching this, seeing what happened to Bayley tonight, shouldn't get our hopes up that this could be a transition to a main roster call-up? Do you not see that?
Absolutely not. No, because here's the thing. You already said it. Bayley is the face of NXT at this point. Her and Finn, specifically, they are like the number 1 and number 2, or I guess you could even say 1A and 1B representatives for NXT right now. They are the John Cena and Roman Reigns of NXT. They're not going to get called up because they're more valuable to the WWE in NXT than they would be on the main roster. And from what I understand, Finn is already making main roster money, so why would he even want to get called up?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm right there with you, dude. And really, it's a shame because, my reasons for wanting to see Bayley get called up. I do think she could really do well there, but it would be more of a marathon, not a sprint. It's not going to happen overnight. Yeah. And, it's funny, the domino effect that you've kind of laid before us, going back to London and then going through Dallas and then connecting it all the way to now, how just doing one match differently, Bayley could be on the main roster right now if they did that match. We don't know for certain, but I'd be pretty damn confident, because if you're so concerned that you don't have a top female babyface, well, people love what Asuka does. Why would you impede that momentum by putting her against somebody as beloved as Bayley? Because to your point that you just made a few moments ago, it doesn't help anybody. Yes, it gets sympathy for Bayley, but at whose expense? Asuka, who really, it shouldn't be at her expense to begin with.
Right.
So it's really quite a quandary that WWE, I think, has kind of created for themselves, and I don't really know the resolution. To your point again, it does seem like it's going to be Nia Jax versus Asuka at this next TakeOver on June 8th, and that's fine, but it almost seems like, if I'm really just being blunt, a too little too late kind of situation.
Exactly. And that's those words, I don't think that there's any corporation, any wrestling company on the planet that those words have been said about more than Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Too little, too late might as well literally be the motto of Ring of Honor fans. And really, even if not that, I feel like the actual motto of people that genuinely like Ring of Honor is just relax and be patient, because that's all they ever ask you to do.
And now I'm really starting to see the parallels you've constructed, but if anybody has any dissenting views, or they have something they want to lend to the conversation, feel free, because it really is, when you really unpack it and you create kind of that linear line of just all the events and just leading up here, it does really pose an interesting problem. And yet the funny thing is, I'm still invested in the NXT women's division. I think a lot of great talents are there, and especially with what happened tonight, two distinct things. My interest is only intensified in that time. So I guess we'll see what comes of it. But did you have any other remarks you wanted to make?
Just wanted to add on that this applies to Joe and Balor as well.
Okay.
I think that the decision would have been a better decision to have Joe beat Balor at London have Balor chase Joe, lose a match at Dallas, and then we could build to a steel cage match because Finn gets this whole I'm obsessed / possessed persona and just keeps on going after Joe. And we might even have a heel Balor on our hands by now if they would have pulled that trigger, which I personally think would have been, again, better for NXT because that would have allowed you to make Joe your top face, who apparently the main roster doesn't have any interest in. And it would kind of free up that spot for Balor to get called up so that you could actually do more on the main roster with him and the Bullet Club / Balor Club.
I mean, you know I'm right with you there. I mean, I feel like Joe should have been champion long ago. I mean, I'm grateful that we're here now. But again, it's like you're making up for lost time.
Well, again, too little, too late.
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
So with that said, let us get right into our NXT review. We start off with a little video package highlighting the main event for tonight. It is going to be Nia Jax versus Bayley, kind of recapping their rivalry and just showing their history to everybody. Then we go straight into the in-ring action. Blurphexa, Buddy Murphy, Wesley Blake with Alexa Bliss at ringside versus Austin Aries. And I'll tell you what, Ashton, Austin Aries picked quite a tag team partner, didn't he?
Yeah, man, we've been anticipating this whole time that it would be Bobby Roode, but as it turns out, it's quite a massive upgrade over Bobby Roode, if you ask me. Shinsuke Nakamura, man.
I'll tell you, I look like, well, I wouldn't say the absolute worst, but I definitely got egg on my face. I mean, my outro for our Lucha Underground review. In my money, it pays to be rude. Womp, womp, womp. So, yeah, we got Austin Aries, Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, what did you think of this match, Ashton? Give me your thoughts.
This was a decent match, but really it was kind of a squash. It was really just these two indie darlings dominating Buddy Murphy while Blake watches on in, fear.
Yeah, and it really makes sense. I mean, given what happens in the post-match, the structure of this match does make sense to me. But
I can't believe I just called Nakamura an indie darling. That was stupid. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all right. Well, honestly, I didn't even register.
That was a horrible mistake, and if somebody else would have made it, I would have been on their ass about it, so I need to apologize.
All right, well, apology accepted. I'm sure everybody else accepts, but I didn't even register it, so you're good in my book, bro. But, I mean, yeah, the structure of the match, given what happened in the post-match, makes perfect sense to me, and we will get to the post-match in a second, because I want to hear a lot from you about that, because I'm very curious what your take was. But I liked how Aries and Nakamura worked together, mainly just Nakamura being awesome, and I gotta say, too, and I don't mean this to be a dig at Aries, but holy fuck is Nakamura over compared to Aries. Like, I think I only heard a small handful legitimately cheering for Aries, but pretty much that whole arena was pro Nakamura. And I like the finish too, and I wonder, and I'm going to ask you this in a second, Ashton, because Nakamura's getting all fired up, he does this stuff, the inverted exploder and all that stuff, and he's winding up the knee, the Kinshasa, hits it, but, before that, Aries kind of reached his hand out. He thought Nakamura was going to tag him. Nakamura takes the spotlight for himself because he's amazing like that. Now, Aries seemed comfortable with it, but do you think we're going to get an Austin Aries versus Nakamura match down the road?
No, I don't. I don't think that was like a big intentional thing that they did. I think that was just kind of, Nakamura being like, dude, why the hell would I tag you in when I got this?
See, I only ask you that, right?
I guess I could see them turning Aries heel for that.
And see, that's kind of what I was getting at, because I think the only reason I fielded you that question to begin with was because we know that Aries did give the backstage interview where he's kind of flown under the radar and he wanted to change some things.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe you're right. Maybe you kind of picked something out there that I didn't notice. But yeah, you might be right there. They might be going there. They might be turning Aries heel, considering he's not really connecting as a baby. So maybe, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I mean, and again, this isn't me trying to be a dig, but I do think a heel turn would be a smart move because there's just part of me that just wants to dislike Aries. Like, I feel like a heel turn would work for him. And I just think it's funny that you pair him with a guy that I mean, I think they had to know, Ashton, that Nakamura was going to get a bigger pop than Aries unless they had some kind of a long con they were perpetuating here, that being a match between Aries and Nakamura, maybe even for this takeover on June the 8th. So yeah. I actually, you know what? You can color that as an official prediction from me. I do think we'll get added to the takeover card for June 8th, Nakamura versus Austin Aries. So
yeah, I can dig that. Up next, though, after the match, we had some interesting stuff go down with the other team. Murphy and by the way, can I just say, all this match did for me was make me want a 15-minute Murphy Nakamura singles match.
Yeah, buddy.
Because, dude, Murphy sold his ass off for Nakamura.
He did. He put in the work.
So good.
But I gotta ask you, bro. I mean, you see the disintegration of Blurphexa in the post-match. Alexa is just backing away, nodding, almost repulsed, like, no, I'm done. And she walks off. And then this is where it gets interesting to me, right?
If Alexa's expression was an internet acronym, it would be SMH.
Ah, I see what you did there. But what was really interesting to me, you have Buddy Murphy, you have Wesley Blake. They both look confused. But then Wesley Blake walks out on Buddy Murphy. So I guess my question to you, and I know we did get a follow-up to this later, so I guess we'll kind of tie it all up in one neat package. But my question for you is, where do all three of them go from here? And more specifically on Blake and Murphy, who's the face and who's the heel? Because Murphy looked like the babyface to me being abandoned. So what do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know because of what happened later. Murphy abandoned Blake, so I have no clue.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, but I'm intrigued about where this is all going to go because you and I,
based on who would be the better face, it has to be Murphy. But I don't know. And plus, Blake has so many great cheap ways to get heat.
He does. I mean, even the way he styles his hair gets heat. I completely agree with you.
But at the same time, if you have to pick one of them for Alexa to stick with, it's Murphy, which kind of bodes more for him staying heel.
Well, that's another question for you then. I mean, do you think Alexa's going to side with one of them, or is she done with both of them, given the later segment that we got?
She might just be done with both of them, yeah. I mean, do we just want to talk about the segment they had later since they kind of blend into each other a little bit?
Take it away, bro. Lay out the scene for everybody.
Okay, basically, they were all backstage, and Alexa said that this was the last straw, that those two guys were embarrassing and that she's done with them embarrassing her, and maybe now that she's able to focus on herself and that it's all about her, she can actually do some stuff. And I don't even remember if she specifically alluded to winning the women's championship or if she just kind of implied that she was going to try and climb her way up the women's division ladder again. But she walks out, and then Murphy walks out. But the difference here was that we didn't really focus so much on Blake's expression. And for the little time that we did have the camera on Blake, he didn't have like that devastated expression on his face like Murphy did. So either A, Murphy's going face, or B, Murphy's just way better at expressing himself.
If I could just tack on something really quickly to your recap, I can tell you that Alexa Bliss explicitly made reference to the NXT Women's Championship because I believe she said, and I'll paraphrase here if I get the weight wrong, now I can go after the NXT Women's Championship and it'll be so much easier without 475 pounds of dead weight, referring to Blake and Murphy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we know what Alexa Bliss's ambitions are. So, I mean, let's break this down. I mean, one, do you kind of visualize Alexa Bliss as a future challenger for Asuka for that championship? Do you think she's going to find any success in that arena?
Probably. I mean, she's not going to find success, no, but she's probably going to be a contender.
Right. That's really what I meant by saying.
I feel like at this point, Alexa Bliss is kind of like the ultimate TV women's championship contender.
Right.
Like, they'll put her in matches against the women's champion consistently, but she's never going to win it until maybe like a year or two down the road when she gets a lot better and is against somebody that's more on her level.
I will say, I mean, compared to when Alexa Bliss first started, I mean, the prospect of her being women's champion is more attractive to me because I feel like her heel work is just on point. But I do feel like she still has a little ways to go, so I'm really right there with you. But now
I will say, I feel like she's less likely to win the women's championship now without Blake and Murphy, because I thought that the idea of a female champion with two male sort of enforcers would have been a really cool visual.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree with you completely. And speaking of enforcers, I mean, we've both, I think, made comparisons of Buddy Murphy to an Arn Anderson. I know,
dude, in the match he had tonight when he was in the ring there selling for Nakamura, you know who he reminded me of?
Who's that?
Triple H.
Yeah, man. Like, I'm telling you, Buddy Murphy to me, and again, this isn't to cheapen Wesley Blake or just to disregard him. I do think he should be heel, and I do think you'll see, honestly, and I don't mean this to be a dig at you either, I could see Wesley Blake being kind of like that Ty Dillinger heel. Like, he works the TV matches, He's probably going to lose most of the time. And the only difference is I'm actually hoping Ty Dillinger will go somewhere, whereas with Wesley Blake, it's kind of met with an indifference for me.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I agree. I can agree with that. Yeah, man, it's crazy though, dude. Like Murphy bumps the exact same way Triple H does. I wonder if they were trained by, similar, like maybe like Murphy was trained by somebody who was trained by Killer Kowalski, who also trained Triple H. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
Because they bump. It's weird. You watch them bump, and it's the exact same motion.
Yeah, man. Like, I know, especially you, because I know you've watched Murphy's work, and you've researched it like in Australia, and now that he's bad. I've still been meaning to check it out actually. We both see like a lot of potential in him. I mean, I'm hoping this translates into a single run. So, I mean, let me ask you, we'll do a bit of fantasy booking here. The team's dissolved. How would you handle Buddy Murphy from here? Like, what's even week one? Like, how do we really establish things from the theme music to the character? Like, what do we do with Buddy Murphy now that he's kind of like a blank canvas without these guys?
Losing streak.
Oh, interesting route.
Just to me, the best way to get sympathy on anybody is for them to go on a losing streak. Just have Buddy Murphy, like, maybe he comes out and his opponent is like Samoa Joe, and it's just like, oh shit, well, obviously he's going to lose that. But he puts up some fight. He kicks out of something that would normally put somebody that's like on the lower card away.
Right.
And he just kind of fights, but he still loses. Maybe he just passes out to the coquina clutch.
Right.
And then like the following week, his opponent is Nakamura, and we get a good like 7 or 8 minute match between them, but he eats a Kinshasa and loses. And then next thing he's kind of working his way down the card at this point almost. Like he goes from the champion to the top non-champion, and then maybe the next week he does face Ty Dillinger, and he hands Dillinger one of his first wins ever. And then, maybe the following week he faces like Gargano and loses to him, or Ciampa and loses to him. And, he kind of like reaches rock bottom, and then he has somebody or something, some kind of like a catalyst that snaps him out of his funk, and then he starts to go on a winning streak. He kind of builds his way back up.
Very interesting. And now, like, it connects to me because we did say that Buddy Murphy would go babyface between the two.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, it makes it more attractive to me now that I remember the proper context. Yeah, I think that could work. And I think knowing it's Full Sail and it's NXT, they could take a story like that and really make it special. I could even see, like, video packages for Buddy Murphy when he finally gets, like, the big win and he starts to really build something. The struggle being real and overcoming the odds, but, all that good stuff. So, yeah, I mean, that could definitely work. I mean, Wesley Blake, I'll be honest, I don't even really want to get into because, again, I just really see him as, like, that TV kind of heel. Have your matches. Maybe they're competitive, but it doesn't really go anywhere. And we've already talked about Alexa Bliss, so I think we can move on.
Absolutely. All right. Up next, we had a Cathy Kelley interview with Bayley. Bayley basically just says that Nia Jax likes to use her size to try and intimidate people, but she's not scared of her. And that tonight's match is going to end the same way as their match in London, with Bayley winning. She says that her goal is to win back the NXT Women's Championship and become the first ever 2-time NXT Women's Champion.
Yeah, I mean, short, sweet, and to the point by Bayley. I enjoyed it. Good hype for the main event.
Yep. Up next, we had our Asuka video package, which was intense, and we got to see her, kicking people. Pretty much is what she does. That's kind of her style, right?
Yeah, it's kind of her thing, just a little bit.
Yeah. But then after we see that, we go to another Cathy Kelley interview, this time with No Way Jose.
Yeah,
and
buddy.
John, I know you usually like to kick things over to me when I already have a predisposition to like what I'm going to be talking about, but I really want to know what you thought about this interview.
It's funny, right? Because I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine today, and he said, like, he can't stand No Way Jose and the Shining Stars because he feels like there's, like, an emphasis or, like, a stereotyping of, like, where they come from.
Who said this?
About. Just a friend of mine. I don't want to give out names for the sake of their privacy, but
right, I got you.
Yeah, just they really didn't care for it. I can see what they're saying to a point. I see it more with the Shining Stars, obviously, than No Way Jose.
Oh, dude, but if you don't see it with No Way Jose, it's because you're not looking hard enough.
Yeah, probably.
Because seriously, like the idea that we have a Dominican who dances a lot and likes baseball, that's about as stereotypical as you can get.
And see, I'm not really. I'll be honest here. I'll show my ignorance. I'm not really informed about that stereotype. So it just makes sense to me now. In
Honestly,
proper
I
context.
think at this point, freaking Prepico are less stereotypical than No Way Jose.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because the only thing stereotypical about them is that they love their country, which isn't really actually stereotypical
yeah,
at
that
all.
isn't even really. Yeah.
Like,
But
I mean, if that's a stereotype, then John Cena and Jack Swagger are also stereotypes.
yeah, really. But to answer your question, because I know you want to know my thoughts about what I thought of this promo. I mean, I liked it, and I know you've been saying recently. I think it was on Raw, even in conversation, that you would say this. Like, as long as there's a connection with the crowd, when you're good at what you do, in the ring, it's just gonna work. As long as the gimmick makes a connection. And No Way Jose, as far as Full Sail is concerned, clearly has a connection. And I like his attitude. I've heard him cut a promo like this before, admittedly, on the WWE.com exclusives. He did one, and he pretty much cut verbatim the exact same promo about how, you see this? This is a smile, and it's a pretty nice smile, if I do say so myself, and just going through all that. It's good, and I like what he does in ring. I think with No Way Jose, I'm still in the wait and see kind of phase, because I'm liking everything, right? It's not even like in a critical way. I just don't know how it's going to be handled. And that is where I think, like, I'm kind of with bated breath, just wondering where it's going to go next. I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you see him at all getting in the NXT title picture, given the saturation of talent, or you just see him as kind of like that fun mid-carder? I mean, do you see that tag team with Swan materializing, maybe?
I could definitely see that happening for the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic if we do that again this year for sure.
I think we are doing it again this year, and I love your idea of having those two in it together as a team.
Being said, I could, how I was talking earlier about how Murphy would need like a catalyst to kind of, snap him out of his funk.
Right.
I could see the exact opposite happening for No Way Jose, where he wins a lot of matches, and next thing you know, he ends up in a world title match against Joe, and Joe just obliterates him, and it makes him more serious.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I like that. Just be like,
I guess I'm just a sucker for people actually adapting to their surroundings and having their personalities and outlook change based on their experiences.
So you're a sucker for life then? Because that pretty much describes life, right? I mean,
I guess you could say I'm a sucker for art imitating life.
Ooh. But yeah, man, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. No Way Jose, just a very intriguing case, and really, I'm still down, both for my own biased reasons and just because I think it would be good for No Way Jose, honestly, to be in a tag team with somebody like Swan, because to me, I feel like if he's in a tag team, you kind of prolong the life of this gimmick. I don't know if necessarily it'll tire, but I just don't know the depth of No Way Jose yet. I don't know. I just think singles, I'm open to it, but again, there's a tentativeness on my part. Good promo, though, and again, I'm liking the packaging and everything. It's just something makes me uneasy. Maybe it's just the booking or the writing or whatever, but I see him hitting a wall, and I don't want to see that happen.
I don't know, man. I don't feel like he's going to hit that much of a wall. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's obviously got the kind of gimmick that most people see as jobber material.
Right.
But I think that this is one of those cases where the cream's going to rise to the top, and he's got the kind of talent and charisma to make it work.
Oh, dude, make no mistake. Like, when you, informed me about who the guy is.
That's more why I asked you what you thought about this promo. Not so much about, what do you think about the things he said here? But no, I just want to know if you see the charisma that I keep talking about.
Definitely. And I can tell you Full Sail sees it as well. I mean, absolutely. I'm just wondering if, in its current packaging, if that charisma will really be allowed to burst. Because I'll tell you, with the other images you've shown me of No Way Jose with other get-ups and maybe even other gimmicks, because I don't know what he did before No Way Jose. Didn't you even say on an episode of TWitWoW, correct me if I'm wrong, but you saw Rock levels of potential with No Way Jose? Yeah. And I can certainly agree with you there. There is a likability about him that I think can take him so far. I just don't know necessarily if this is the packaging that's going to do it, but it very well might be. I mean, come on, folks, given my track record, I'm not exactly the opinion you should put the utmost confidence in, but regardless, I mean, yeah, I definitely see the charisma. Sky's the limit for him. I just think it all has to come together at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on. We had a Carmella sort of sit down promo / interview kind of thing without anyone actually asking her questions. Basically, she just congratulates Enzo and Cass on being on the main roster. Talks about Enzo being tough and that he'd be back soon from the concussion. Compliments Cass on having main evented Raw, even though that match didn't actually happen. But then she also says that she's still in NXT because she has a purpose. She wants to win the NXT Women's Championship.
Right. Again, much like Bayley's promo earlier, short, sweet, and to the point. I like how she touched on, Enzo and Cass and all their goings on, and I like, though, how she shifts focus back to herself at the end. Says, hey, I've got ambitions of my own. I am going to be the next NXT Women's Champion. So good stuff from Carmella here.
Yeah, I dig that. So up next, though, after that, we had her match with Peyton Royce, which we've already kind of talked about, but I'm sure that there are other things we can say about it.
I mean, yeah, I enjoyed the selling on Carmella's part. I thought she was a good foil for Peyton Royce to really establish
that I will agree
heel
with,
work.
for sure. Carmella has gotten a lot better, and I think that the area she has improved the most in is selling.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with you there. Peyton Royce was fantastic in ring. I still can't get over, again, the two vertical suplexes. I mean, just perfection. And then that fisherman suplex, just, again, pure excellence.
The execution.
Yeah, there you go. I will say, too, I actually kind of sighed relieved, kind of pushing the rewind button just a little bit, that Carmella was able to do her thing in Full Sail because she wanted the crowd to say hottest chick in the ring, and they actually did this week.
It was faint, but they did it.
See, I feel like it was pretty loud. I disagree that it was faint, at least to me, but maybe I have to go back and listen to it.
I guess I'm comparing it to when people would say Enzo and Cass's stuff with them.
Right, maybe it's just something that has to catch on. I think gradually the noise will build. At least I would hope.
I mean, honestly, dude, it's not so much it needs to catch on as she just needs to get over, which she's just not yet.
Yeah, I think she can, though.
She's maybe 50% over, 60% at most.
You know what? And this is just me being honest. I think Carmella can maybe get to a good 80% at most.
I would agree. I don't know about at most, but I would agree with 80% being a realistic expectation.
Right. Not really much to say about the match, though, seeing as how we covered so much ground in the first segment, Heat of the Night. Carmella does get the win with the inverted triangle, and, there you go. I mean, she beats Peyton Royce. I hope we see more Peyton Royce in the future.
Yeah, I really liked Peyton Royce's aggression in this match.
Oh, it was great, dude.
She was going all out, man, right up until Carmella decided to turn on her comeback.
Yeah, really. It's a shame, too, because when you look at somebody like Peyton Royce, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but you've got a woman with just a great look. I think she really knows the aesthetics of an entrance. It's funny, we've watched Breaking Ground, and we know a woman who had a terrible entrance, at least originally, was Noof. She didn't know how to work. Aaliyah, yeah, that's right. She didn't know how to work the ring at all or anything like that. Whereas I feel like Peyton Royce, she just got this charisma about her when she enters the ring, and I love it.
I dig the purple hair too.
Yeah, I did notice that. I'm like, yeah, that's
what is it with NXT women dyeing their hair neon colors?
I mean, maybe they just know they can get away with it, so they're like, why the hell not?
It's funny though, because you've got, I mean, obviously Charlotte is bleach blonde almost. You've got
right.
Dana Brooke basically has white, gray, white, silver, however you want to call it, hair. Sasha has had Technicolor hair. She used to be a purplish red, and then she was more of just a pure red, and then she's kind of an orangish red, and now she's back to almost purple. And then, of course, Becky is bright neon orange. And now we've got Peyton Royce rocking the purple that Sasha used to rock.
Right. Yeah,
maybe it'll rub off on her.
Maybe.
Because
you never know. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, Carmella gets the win. I would love, look, if you're going to give Deonna Purrazzo, I remember they gave her at a time after her losses to Asuka, interview time and be like, oh, I learned, and then, keep losing. I think after such a competitive matchup, I would love in either next week or the week after, Peyton Royce to have a backstage interview segment, really saying, well, I'm here, I'm ready to stake my claim in NXT, and then maybe get her on a little bit of a win streak. But then again, that's most likely wishful thinking, so that's all I got to say about that.
I hope we see Billie Kay next week.
That would be cool. Absolutely. Maybe we see her next week.
Even if it is in a losing effort against Alexa Bliss, which would be the worst case scenario.
And then maybe the week after, maybe Billie Kay and Peyton Royce would meet up in the same locker room, go over how they both lost, maybe create that Australian alliance.
Well, there's a problem with that. I think that the NXT writers have Billie Kay chalked in as a babyface right now.
Give it time. Remember, one babyface.
It sucks that Sylvester Lethort got released, because I really liked that they were like, he was like her manager. I would have loved to see that on television.
Dude, I got so stoked when I originally read that was happening at NXT live events. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Up next, William Regal makes the official announcement that Joe Balor in June at TakeOver will be a steel cage match. For the protection of the fans, of course.
Now, I wanted to ask you, because I saw on Twitter, you and Lee Clark were having a debate about it. You thought that the stipulation didn't make any sense. He was just enjoying it for the stipulation's own sake. Now that you've kind of gotten the proper context of the live event in Ohio, I believe it was, where they were just kind of brawling everywhere and they needed the NXT locker room to empty out, does that context improve your disposition upon the stipulation at all, or do you still think it's stupid?
Yeah, it does. It helps. It felt so random, like now all of a sudden we're randomly going to have this steel cage match. But I don't know. It feels very forced to me. But the fact that they at least gave us some backstory with that live event, I guess that does help. I guess my thing is, when you do a steel cage match, it should be for the purpose of either A, containing the people in it, or B, keeping somebody out of it. And I feel like there's never really, up until now, all of a sudden they're springing this live event crap on us. There's never really been any reason to try and contain these guys, because they've never really like gone into the crowd at all.
Right. And as I remember you saying anyway in the Twitter debate, like, neither guy's really run from the other. Like, Joe can say, and even Balor said himself the first two times he survived Joe, doesn't mean he ran away from him at any point in those matches. So you can't even say, oh, well, now Joe's got Balor trapped, and this is going to be a really uphill climb for Balor. I mean, that's certainly true that it is going to be an uphill climb, but it's not like he ran away from the prior challenges anyway. So, I don't know. It's kind of a head-scratcher, but I do think they'll put on a good match.
Yeah, that's my whole thing, is that, like, for a steel cage match, I get that you also... Another really good reason to have a steel cage match is to keep the guys contained within the ring.
Right.
Because, like, I mean, just last season on Lucha Underground, Johnny Mundo, King Cuerno, they were fighting outside around the ring. But I think the difference there is that they were doing that on the television show that this whole thing is being a part of, whereas with NXT, it's just like, oh, they went out into the crowd during this one live event match, so we're going to put them in a steel cage now.
Right, I get what you're saying.
It just cheapens it, but it definitely helps, but it's still a lot cheaper reasoning than the Lucha Underground one that we got.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And then we get a Facebook video of the match update, because we have contract signing between these two. And,
can I just say, this little contract signing I thought was really bad.
Really? Why'd you think it was bad?
Mostly on Finn's part, admittedly.
Okay. Did you just not like the promo, or what?
Well, who's doing the chasing here?
I see what you're saying.
This promo, it felt like Joe was so much more passionate and angry, and like he wanted to kill Finn than Finn was. And Finn is supposed to be the one that's pissed that Joe beat him at a live special, and that he's supposed to be going after Joe. And Finn is just like, oh, I'm going to beat you. Bet you I'll beat you. I'm going to be the 2-time NXT champion. How about that? Whereas Joe's just like, I'm going to kill you. Why is Finn not putting on that kind of passion and anger?
Perhaps because he's got a little chip on his shoulder knowing that he's beaten Joe twice. So knowing he's got like the winning edge. That wouldn't put a chip on
your shoulder. If anything, that would make you overconfident.
Well, I mean, that's really what I was kind of implying, is that he is overconfident, so maybe he doesn't really feel the need to be like as into it, because he feels like he already has Joe's number a little bit. So, I don't know. Yeah,
I just don't like that Finn's lines felt inorganic is the word, maybe?
Possibly.
It didn't feel like he actually cared. It didn't feel like he was legitimately angry about losing the title. His whole gimmick now is that he's obsessed or possessed or whatever you want to call it, and it just seems like he just kind of wants to win. Like, that's it.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from to a point. I did like Joe's half of it, but again, like, even that really didn't make much sense to me, because he said, oh, even you said the past 2 times you survived, well, now, being locked in with me, you won't. you know, in this latest encounter. But it's like, well, he never really ran away from you to begin with. And really, we keep saying he survived. Let's really call it what it is. I mean, yeah, it was by the skin of his teeth, but he did beat you twice. So I don't really know, man. Again, it should be a good match.
You know what, though? That works for Joe, because even if he is trying to, like, blow it out of proportion how much he beat Finn down and make it seem like Finn was trying to escape from him, he's a heel. So it's okay if he's kind of stretching the truth to make him seem like more of a badass than he is.
Oh, certainly. I mean, hyperbole, I think is, yeah.
But with Finn, though, I mean, he's fresh off of this championship loss. He should be angrier.
I would agree. I mean, that's why I loved what he did last week, because he seemed like so angry and so in the zone.
And why did that not translate into this segment now?
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying is an issue for me. Like, and hell, I mean, you want to bring up Ring of Honor. Kyle O'Reilly's promo after Adam Cole screwed him out of the ROH World Title was so much better than Finn's promo here.
That was so good.
And it's like, it's very similar context. You're pissed because you didn't get the world title and you want to whip someone's ass to get to the world title. It's a very similar context. It's just redirected.
Right. I think it's a great parallel you just constructed. I really have nothing more to add. We can move on.
Okay. Up next was the backstage segment with Blurphexa. So if you want to just move past that, since we already talked about it, we can.
Absolutely.
Third match of the night, Ciampa and Gargano. That's a cool new team name for them. Ciampa or Gargano.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, Ciampa and Gargano facing off with Danny Burch and son of Terra Ryzin, Rob Ryzin.
I have no idea who Terra Ryzin is.
That's Triple H's old gimmick. It was a joke.
Oh, wow. That was totally... You want to talk about one flew over the cuckoo's nest? That flew right over my head.
You seriously didn't know that Triple H used to be Terra Ryzin?
No, I didn't.
That was his name in WWE before he became the Blue Blood.
That is awful, and they should all be ashamed of themselves.
Right? It's so bad.
But I want to open this up with a question to you.
Okay.
Because here's my thing, right? I like Gargano and Ciampa, and I'm so glad this show at least pronounces Tommaso's name right.
Yeah, and so does Dasha Fuentes. She did a great job tonight, but
yeah,
Graves
thank you.
Phillips need to get their shit together.
Yeah, seriously, and you've had like all this time to do so. No excuse. I do like Gargano and Ciampa as a tag team. I think they're like a shit ton of fun, whatever. But if I'm being honest, I was really liking what Ciampa seemed to be doing as a heel in singles, and I just wanted to know your thoughts on that. Do you like this tag team? Do you have a preference for them doing singles? Where are you at? Because me personally, I prefer them.
Here's my thing. I dig this tag team, and I guess that the match that we saw between Gargano and Joe, I really liked the idea of that match, and the idea that maybe like eventually Gargano can work his way back up and actually give Joe a run for his money. But Ciampa is in kind of that awkward spot where he's either going to be in the main event picture going for the title or an undercard guy that doesn't actually matter. And I think that he's better off being in the tag team division, which is extremely hot right now and has a lot of things going on for it. So I think that, like, if you look at the sum of all the parts, the tag team makes more sense than the two singles.
Here's where I stand with it, right?
Yeah.
It makes me think back to Booker T, because we know he came from Harlem Heat, and that whole thing. And he said that he feels like tag teams can really build main eventers. I would like this to be a case of that being true.
Yeah.
Because to me, Gargano's really over with Full Sail. Not saying Ciampa isn't, but it's very clear Gargano has a connection with this crowd. Now, Gargano, I feel like it could be an interesting story of him being a babyface, Johnny Wrestling, getting this streak, and maybe this tag team, they branch off eventually, and Gargano could make a run. I mean, just purely hypothetical, of course, so I'll use the current standing champion, Samoa Joe, and we do that. Ciampa, I feel like, was doing great singles heel work, as I already said, right. So I feel like they could build him up too. So you know what? I'll qualify it like this. I'm cool with the tag team, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't licking my lips thinking about an American Alpha versus Gargano and Ciampa matchup for the NXT tag team titles.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we've already had that match that was non-title, that was just between those two teams before either one of them held the titles, and it was amazing.
And that's true. I actually forgot about that match, which means I need to go back and rewatch it, because you're right. From what I recollect, yeah. It was amazing.
I've literally watched that match like 4 times, I think. It was that good.
Yeah, but my goal long-term for these guys anyway would be use this tag team as a vehicle to get one, and really preferably both with the connection they have, up the main event, kind of upper crust. So that would be my aspiration for these guys. That said, it was so much fun watching them really work with the two competitors here. I've already forgotten their names because that's how forgettable they were to me.
Ryzin and Danny Burch.
Rob Ryzin and Danny Burch. I actually do like Danny Burch, and I do agree with Corey Graves. He seems to have really changed his look some. Like, I remember, I don't know if bulkier is the right word or more filled out, but he definitely seems to have slimmed down.
I mean, didn't he used to just wear a black wife beater so we couldn't tell?
I mean, maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe it was just the black wife beater all along concealing, what his body type was and everything else. But yeah, it's interesting. And I'd still like to see Danny Burch do something, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we heard about his release this year, because he does good work. I just don't know when he's going to hit that wall and just be like, yeah, I'm done with this. But Gargano and Ciampa, a lot of fun to watch. And I got to ask you, Ashton, what do you think of that double team finisher, huh? That was sick.
Yeah, it looks like it would definitely knock you out. That's for sure.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, I've been watching, and I know you have too. I mean, for God's sakes, you put our two fandoms together. You got over like 20 plus years of watching this. I've seen a lot of double team, tag team maneuvers, finishers, just standard maneuvers. That's new to me. I've never seen that, because if I recollect right, Ciampa does a knee to the back of the head, and Gargano does a super kick to the front. So it's cool to me. Like, damn, because you're in the back of that and the front of it. It's like, man, you're just begging for a knockout.
Dude, if WWE wasn't so sort of socially conscious,
right,
the name of this move would be PCS.
Standing for what?
Post-concussion syndrome.
Oh my God, that's amazing. No, I'm totally picking up what you're laying down right now. That... Yes.
Because, like, this move, if it was actually done to an actual person, they would be instantly concussed. So, yeah, have fun with that.
Dude, Gargano and Ciampa, again, really fun as a tag team. I'm just trying to see the forest for the trees and see the potential of both of these guys as individual assets, but I'm just going to enjoy the ride while it lasts. So, great win.
Ciampa shaved his mohawk, too. He's got a very unique look going on right now.
Yeah, he does. I love the psycho killer chants for him, too, in full.
Dude,
that was great.
And you know what? Just because I feel like this was a really good match and we're really praising it, the only real negative that I would have to say about this is Corey Graves, and he's starting to kind of, make it onto my shit list now. Yet again, picking on a good guy, or not picking on a good guy, picking on, or how would you say it? Ciampa is supposed to be a bad guy, right? No?
I thought he was, but then, this team's so well received, I don't know.
I don't know, man. But, like, Graves basically saying, oh, you see Gargano getting all these chants, but not Ciampa, because Ciampa's a terrible person. Like, you're either A, trying to make a babyface look like a heel, or B, if he's supposed to be a heel, you're saying you don't like him, which means that you're rooting against him.
Can I just say, too, I'm so glad you brought this up. And again, I can't even really blame Corey Graves because I'm a mark and I know it. But, like, he didn't help me at all, right? Because I don't know if I was reading too much into it. I did get a heelish vibe only slightly from Ciampa, and I'm like, oh my God, is he going to turn on Gargano? Are we going to do this? Like, is that going to be a program?
Dude, that would be such a good program.
Right, though? And I'm like, oh, well, even though I'm totally wrong, like, it's the best time to be wrong, because at least I know I'm asking for something awesome. Yeah. And then you have Corey Dickweed be like, oh, well, Ciampa doesn't get any chance. Ooh, stoking the flames, Corey. I like what you're doing.
And then 2 minutes later, psycho killer.
Exactly. And then and that's bad enough, right? But then when they win, I'm just thinking, no, Corey, you weren't stoking the flames. You're just becoming incrementally shittier at your job. Yeah. That's even worse. What are you doing, Corey?
It's bad.
No,
He's slowly transforming into a JBL.
Don't say it. Oh, you said it. Oh, God. Oh, I never wanted Corey Graves to be on either of our shit lists ever. Oh, God, I don't even know if my heart can take it. Gargano and Ciampa win with the double team. Let's just move on.
Dude, the real irony here is that we loved Corey Graves when nobody else did, and now we're starting to dislike him when everyone else loves him.
Oh my God, does that make us hipsters? What does that make us?
Hipsters.
Oh God. Nothing means everything, and everything means nothing. Okay,
Up next, William Regal announces officially that American Alpha will face off with the Revival at TakeOver in June.
Look, bro, I'm still receding into my own ego. I don't even know what the hell you're telling me right now. I think you said something about Revival and American Alpha. Yeah, great that we got the rematch. So, good stuff. Holy shit.
Okay, main event time. Bayley versus Nia Jax.
Okay.
Can I just say, before we even talk about the match,
Okay.
there was one point about 65% into this match, like 2/3 of the way into it. It was coming to an end. And Bayley was she was selling because that's what she did for almost this entire match. And Nia was kind of just standing there waiting for Bayley to stand up so she could do more stuff to her. And there was a random guy in the crowd that yelled, "We believe in you, Bayley!" And then some other random dude across the room just yelled, "Not me!"
Yeah, again, I don't want to read too much into things, but just kind of springboard off of what you just said. I was actually surprised at how many, like, even if it was like a small handful, but we're kind of salty on Bayley. I'm like, what the shit is this?
I heard a very, very, very faint "Let's go Nia" chant.
Yeah, I heard one guy say, like, "Hey, we want some Nia," which I was just feeling, no.
I think I just snorted.
I think you did too. That's awesome. And so the crowd, it was kind of like entering the twilight zone for this main event. Unless this crowd is just trying to be bad to be good in the sense of, oh, if we crap on Bayley, then they'll move her up to the main roster. We can help Bayley fulfill her dream. But I don't think this crowd is really that benevolent, and I just think I'm trying to invent reasons so, again, I don't keep receding into my own ego. So you look at the main event, really basic, and I mean that as a compliment, actually, because you do have the, kind of monster heel and the really sympathetic babyface. And I like the work they did, well, at least originally before she started to sell the angle, of selling the shoulder after Nia Jax's shoulder breaker to Bayley and doing all that work. I thought that was great. I thought the Hurricane Rana spot was nice because at first it seems like, oh, is Nia going to powerbomb her? But then Bayley fights out. So the whole match, much like London, was a struggle. I like the idea that because Nia was working over the shoulder, that diminishes the efficacy of the guillotine, which Corey Graves, at least to get him back in a positive light, really does emphasize and note throughout this thing. So that was great. And then, Bayley's ankle gets shot. And really, to me, and not to be like morbid or anything, but this match seemed like, we always talk about the little engine that could. Well, it seemed like Bayley was really just, going and going and going. And then she just started to sputter out of gas with each body part that was being kind of stripped away from her, until Nia Jax finally just had enough and she put a definitive end to it with the leg drop to the back of the head. So, I mean, a great match in my mind from a storytelling standpoint, just, basic heel versus face kind of psychology.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to add? Because I know you said quite a bit in the opening segment, again, heat of the night, talking about missed opportunities and stuff.
Here's my thing. This wasn't a bad match by any means. My problem isn't with the match, though. My problem is with the long-form storytelling that they're choosing to go with.
Right.
So the match itself, I had no problems with. It's funny, too, because, like, I hear people talk about, oh, Sasha Bayley was overrated because they weren't selling enough, and Bayley would get hit by a move and sell it for a little bit, but then completely forget to sell it a couple minutes later. And because I've heard those sort of criticisms be made, I was paying attention more than usual tonight to Bayley and whether she was maintaining her selling or not, and she did a great job with it. So I have no complaints whatsoever about this match.
Yeah, your problem isn't reductive as it relates to this one match. It's more, just the whole picture in general.
Right. My problem is a
everything.
big picture complaint, and it's got more to do with the writers than the performers.
Exactly. So Nia does get the win. Dodgers are tending to Bayley. Had NXT actually gotten its shit together, I actually would have been ecstatic, about this finish, and people would have taken it out of context and would have been like, yeah, Bayley's injured, yeah. But really, for me, it would have been, oh, great, she can get called up to the main roster now, but she's got to keep holding it down. 4 horsewomen, soon you'll be together again, I hope. But, yeah.
I think so.
I hope so. I mean, it's not like I've written fan fiction about it or anything. What are you talking about? You're crazy. But, yeah, that was the main event.
I didn't even bring up fan fiction, but okay.
Well, yeah, I didn't either. So Nia Jax gets the win, and that's NXT. So with that said, let's move on to our next segment. High spots and low shots. Who's going to... You know what? My low shot is just going to be Blurphexa as a whole, because they imploded tonight. Just everything, final loss for Alexa Bliss. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, if I had to pick one out of the pack, just so I don't be greedy and take the whole team, I guess Buddy Murphy, because he ate the pin and he was walked out on the first time. So, yeah, I guess Buddy Murphy will be my low shot.
I thought it was the whole 3 group.
Yeah, but then I felt like that was probably selfish, so I wanted to reduce it to 1, and yeah, Buddy Murphy seemed like the biggest loser, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? Just to kind of keep it as simple as possible, Bayley is my low shot. She had a pretty crappy night.
Yeah, she did. I mean, she lost them.
Not only did she lose the match, but she also might have gotten injured.
Yeah. Just a really rough night for Bayley. We'll see if she can bounce back, but excellent choice of low shot all the same. My high spot. Let me see here. Who am I going to be? You know what? My high spot, I'm going to be straightforward. Gargano and Ciampa. Had a lot of fun with these guys. Great matchup, great outing, and they've got a double team finisher that just made me pop. I thought, wow, I've never really seen anything like that. They made quite an impression on me. And American Alpha better watch themselves, because I think you got a great tag team on your hands here that may be gunning for those titles. And hopefully in the future, 2 great main eventers, but that remains to be seen. So, Ashton, who is your high spot?
My high spot is Shinsuke Nakamura.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
I mean, he doesn't even need to be in the main event. He doesn't even need to be in a singles match. When this man is on the card, he steals the show. It's that simple.
You know what? You're right. It is that simple. So simple, in fact. I'm not even going to add anything to that. So, with that said, do you have any concluding remarks about tonight's NXT?
I think I'm good. Let's move forward.
All right, guys, with that said, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Ashton, what question do you have for our subscribers this week?
Where do you see the 3 entities of Blurphexa ending up in the next few months?
I love that question. That is excellent, guys. Get the conversation started down below. Talk to us, talk to us, talk to us. Be sure to take that conversation over to Tweetoff. That is Pro Wrestling is taking over Facebook. And I know we've mentioned him quite a few times tonight, but I know Lee Clark tonight actually started a NXT thread on Tweetoff, so if you guys want to converse about NXT, you can usually count on a thread there to do so. Be sure also to check out the TWitWoW Facebook page, like, share, and comment on the content there. If Facebook is not your medium of choice, you can check us out on Reddit. On the TWitWoW subreddit, you can find all of our TWitWoW content, and members of the TWitWoW subreddit can create threads of their own on all things related to pro wrestling. However, for the best possible TWitWoW experience, I heartily recommend that you follow both of us on Twitter. I am at John_TWitWoW. That is JOHN_TWitWoW. Ashton is at apond404. That's the letter A, pond, the body of water, POND 404. I'm going to give you guys a rundown for the rest of the week. Friday, you can expect our Extreme Rules 2016 preview and predictions video. Going to be great. A lot of discussions to be had, I'm sure. Then Sunday, you can expect our Extreme Rules live reactions. Going to be very interesting to watch the main event. AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns, Extreme Rules unfold. So Extreme Rules content coming to you for the remainder of this week. Until then, guys, tune in and peace out.